This is the second video on Third Reich, the offensive option. This costs 15 base resource points, which must be paid by all of the powers that are allied that are participating on a given front. Changes we've made here are the addition of air units, which are indicated by the infinity sign inside their indicator. The first number is the air strength, and the second number is the range in hexes from the base. Each air unit, totaling 5 points, can be based at one city or one air base. Here it's assumed that there was an air base deployed, and you can see here that at Königsberg the Germans have deployed 154 units. These air units may be broken down into lower denominations at any time. Poland has 2 1-4 air units deployed on Warsaw. The sequence of play is very important for the combat, and so we're going to show you how that process goes forward. The offensive option is meant to capture multi-stage armored warfare, and so it's more complex, but also has higher risk and also higher payoffs as compared with the attrition option. You can see other terrain types here, such as the swamp. There are also mountains here in the south, and there's a beach up here at Königsberg. Units defending in those locations have their base strength tripled, not just doubled, including those that are located behind rivers. Also, units that are attacking across a strait, which is indicated by a red arrow, are also tripled. The maximum stacking of units is 2, although here I've stacked them at only 1. Ground units, I mean, can be stacked 2 units per hex. There's an exception. 3 can be stacked in London, and 5 can be stacked on a bridgehead, and there's unlimited stacking in an exploitation, which is what we're going to look at in a moment. The movement phase for the offensive option is virtually identical as it is for the attrition option. Let's conduct an offensive attack on Poland. So we are going to advance 2 units here. We're then going to concentrate a number of units here. And these armored units will be moved here. Now, the intention is for these 2 units to attack that hex. Oh, I made a bit of an error here. And these 3 units to attack that hex in order to open up a gateway into Warsaw. Now you'll notice that under here under here, these are 2 infantry units, I put an armored unit in this attack, and this qualifies this attack for an armored breakthrough and exploitation at the end of the first attack. Here I've got 2 infantry units, and so they do not get that option later on. So let's look at the way that you calculate the combat. This defender has its defense doubled to 2, so you make a ratio of 6:2, which takes you to a 3:1. And for that, we consult our offensive combat results table, which is here. And it's resolved by a 6-sided die. In this case, you determine the ratio. Here is 3:1. A result of A means the attacker is eliminated. A result of D is all the defenders are eliminated. A result of exchange indicates that the defender is eliminated, and the attacker must then match in losses at a minimum the same number of strength points, including the defender's multiplier. Counterattack indicates that the defender then has to counterattack at that ratio, which in this case is a 1:2 ratio. If it's CA3, it's 1:3 ratio. A CA means the defender attacks and has to recalculate what that ratio is, and there could be variable different ratios. An attack sequence can never end on a counterattack. Whatever the result of that counterattack, you have to then return back and continue until you get a result other than a counterattack result. Okay, so you can see in this particular case, there's a 50% chance that the defender is eliminated and a 16% chance that there's an exchange process. So we can assume here that there's an exchange. So this unit here is eliminated. The Germans can advance into that hex, and in the exchange, the Germans have lost one of their units as well. Now here we have our second attack. There the ratio is 3 plus 3 plus 4, which is 10, against 2, which is a 5 to 1. 5 to 1 has a 16% chance of an exchange, but an overwhelming chance of an enemy destroyed. But what I'm going to do here is stop for a moment and introduce the air combat rules. Air combat rules are very strictly guided by a sequence. And typically the first sequence is that the attacker, and this is in the offensive, not the attrition option, deploys their air units. Now what I want to do here is fly this air unit from Kolberg, 1, 2, 3, 4, and fly it onto Warsaw in a counter-air mission. What this means is that the German player wants to attack and destroy the Polish units. Okay, what this is going to do is invert those air units, which means they're not going to be available for the rest of the turn. The way that you resolve the combat is you roll a die for both sides and you add the total number of factors that is there for that side, and you subtract the nationality modifier. Now Germany's got a nationality modifier of 0. Poland's got a -2, reflecting their more obsolescent aircraft. So if you assume an average roll of, say, 3, Germany would have rolled a 3 plus a 5, which is an 8. Poland would have rolled a 3, -2 for their nationality modifier, +2 for their 2 units. So the Polish value would be a 3, Germany's value would be an 8, which is a difference of 5. That difference is eliminated. So Poland's 2 air units are eliminated. The winner, which is the Germans in this case, must then eliminate a number of air units that are half rounded down. So Poland lost 2 air units. The Germans lose 1. The unit would return to Kolberg, and we would go to the counter mix and reduce that 5-4 into lower denominations totaling 4 air factors. The next value is the application of air power to offensive air missions. So I could take these air units and add them to this attack. And the basic rule is you may not add more than 3 times the number of air factors than there are attacking ground forces. So if you have 1 unit attacking with 3, you cannot have more than 9 air factors supporting that attack. Once the offensive air force is allocated, the defender, in this case Poland, if they had airplanes left, they could allocate defensive air support. And then there could be another opportunity for combat because the attacker can then deploy another air mission called an interception mission, which they try to shoot down the defensive air support. What you're left with, and I forgot here to invert the counter after its mission, is defending air support and offensive air support, and they don't attack each other. They simply add their values to the combat. When there are losses, the defender may take the losses from their ground forces or from any air forces and any supporting bombarding naval forces. So the losses are not only taken by the Air Force. Now, in this particular instance, the Air Forces will be reserved for a later attack on Warsaw. So let us resolve the attack here. The ratio of 5 to 1. There's an overwhelming probability that this Polish unit would have been destroyed. The German forces would have advanced. Now, here is the exploitation rule. The exploitation rule is that any armored units that did not engage in combat but did move, that are in the attacking hex or are adjacent to the forces that are conducting the attack, may then participate in exploitation through the hex. There is no stacking limit for it. So these 2 and this 3rd armored unit can advance onto this hex. So here we have a very large stack. Now this is from the rule book. Here you can see an attack was conducted against this red unit by these German units. An attack was achieved. And then all of these armored units were stacked here. And they then were able to exploit. Now in this particular instance, this reserve Soviet armored unit has a zone of control, as all armored units do. So to move from this hex to this hex is 1 movement point, but to move from here to here, it's 1 point to move into the hex plus 2 for the zone of control. So the German units, although they have 6 movement points, are not unable to move very far. They're effectively blocked because they can't then move an additional amount. To move from there to there would then cost 7 points, which exceeds their movement points, so they can't move. But if this unit was not there, these units could then move a great distance, all the way up to their full movement points. Now, there's a chain rule, which is for every 2 movement points, or 2 hexes, you must have a chain of armored units, all right, if you're doing a deep exploitation. Now, in the particular case of Poland, this is not being done. What's happening is there's going to be a direct attack on Warsaw itself. Now, we go through the same air sequence, and in this particular case, the Germans have one air unit at Königsberg, which they can put in as offensive air support, an additional unit here at Kolberg, and a unit here at Breslau. So here, the total number of attackers is 3 armored units, which is a total of 12, 3 air units of a total of 15, which totals 27, and they're attacking across a river into Warsaw. So that defender's tripled. So normally they have a strength of 2, it's a strength of 6. The ratio of 27 to 6 is a ratio of 4 to 1, which is a significant advantage. There's a high probability that Warsaw would be captured. If Warsaw was captured, let's return the aircraft to where they came from. Warsaw would be captured. The Germans would occupy Warsaw. Oh, sorry, cannot be infantry unit with 2 armored units. And unlike major powers, where one turn there's 1 turn delay in which the defender has a chance to recapture the capital, with minor countries, they instantly surrender. So Warsaw's forces are immediately removed off the map. It becomes a German possession. Now, we have a problem here with the overstacking of the German units there. Those German units may overstack until the strategic redeployment phase, which occurs immediately after combat. And it basically represents the railroad capacity of different countries. So these units would, in this particular instance, be relocated to the west wall to protect against a French attack. If they were not, then units in excess of 2 units that are deployed would have to be eliminated. And so this concludes the offensive option example.